Willy Adames. That is the name being thrown around the Mets Twitter world right now, the rumor world. Everything is pointing towards the Mets, at least maybe, sometimes possibly offering Willy Adames a 7-year, $160 million contract. And this alarms big things, because if you're going after a guy like Willy Adames, it means you're probably not bringing Pete Alonso, because Willy Adames is going to be playing third base for the New York Mets if he is a New York Met. James, haven't spoke to you in a few days. We've been pumping out the content, took a little bit of break, had to go home to New Jersey. Initial thoughts when you saw the Willy Adames rumors?
Initial thoughts were just that was not true. I just didn't believe it. The reports came from Mike Rodriguez, who he has had some scoops. He's been very hit or miss.
Like 50-50.
He scooped I know, but I'm saying he scooped Jorge Soler. He scooped another one, I want to say, too. But this is just a situation now that this is the new world that I think you, Mets fans, baseball Twitter has to get used to, that the Mets will be the focal point of every single free agent, every single murmur from an agent, every single rumor. We are the bad boys. We have the most money. Like, we are the ones that everybody wants to connect with, because we are the ones to drive up anyone's value. We probably are talking to the highest quantity of players because we have so many holes and so much money. This is the world we're going to live in now. This was the Yankees 20 years ago. Now this is the Mets, where every single free agent will be connected to the Mets in oftentimes some very direct fashion, like right now, Willy Adames.
Yeah, and you can draw a line from Willy Adames to the New York Mets. David Stearns was the GM over in Milwaukee when they traded for Willy Adames from the Tampa Bay Rays. So there's clearly a like. And as soon as Willy Adames went from the Rays to the Brewers, we know part of it was playing in Tropicana, but his numbers immediately improved. He became the player that everybody thought he could be with the Rays. The power started to show up. The defense was still good. He walked a lot last year, a career high in walks at 74. There is a very good player in Willy Adames. He is super good. And of course, if he comes to the Mets, he'd be making that move from shortstop to third base. Seemingly, that means Mark Vientos then moves to first base. And that leaves a gap where Pete Alonso doesn't seem like he fits into this team. Willy Adames versus Pete Alonso, was that really the whole conversation here? Is there any world where they could do both? I don't know.
You probably can't do both if you also sign Juan Soto.
True.
I can't imagine that, because there's a world where if you don't sign Juan Soto, you sign a defensive outfielder. Then you have, let's say, Willie, Pete, Mark Vientos. Willy Adames always plays the field, and those two alternate first base, DH. Or sometimes Willy Adames, because he has played second base in his career, goes and plays some second base, and Vientos can play third if he makes meaningful improvements there, and then you can get a different DH. But it definitely makes it tighter. It just feels like to me that if you do Willy Adames at Pete, which I don't think there's any chance that happens. I don't think there's still a slim chance that Adames. I don't know. This just seems like, again, like a blinking light. Like, I don't know if this is true, but it just seems like a lot of infielders on a team that has a lot of infielders. And we have a lot of infielders, and none of them are really expensive besides Francisco Lindor. And we have a lot of young ones coming up, and we don't know exactly what they are, what they're going to be, but we have them, and they're free. So it seems like a good chance to just use them. So we talked about a few episodes ago, about $140 million the Mets have to spend this offseason, which, wow, how much fun is that to spend?
So much money. It's so cool.
Fucking cool. To all of a sudden, one offseason, just spend $50 million of it on two infielders in Pete Alonso and Willy Adames, assuming they both sign in the range of $25 million a year. Now we've just taken out a big chunk of that. We didn't get Juan Soto, who is the game changer, and we still have to build most of a rotation. Just doesn't make sense to get both.
Yeah, and the thing that is interesting to me, like with Willy Adames, like you said, is paying him that money. The 7 years, 160, again, is completely probably a made-up number. Who knows what it actually truly could be, even if the Mets ever made an offer. But that comes out to just under $23 million a year. That's not a ridiculous contract to give to a guy like Willy Adames for his defense, for his bat. He's a plus hitter, very good fielder out in the field. But you mentioned how we have some free guys coming up, and for a team who will be spending money, that could help us spend more money on some guys. The only thing that I see with Adames that makes a lot of sense is if you get him to play third base, you move Vientos to first, all of a sudden now, Brett Beatty, Ronnie Mauricio, maybe even Jet Williams even more now, those guys become a little bit more expendable, a little bit more able to be pushed into a trade for maybe a major arm, because maybe the Mets don't value the arm market as much in free agency as they do for what's available for trades. To me, I can rationalize, I can put the pieces together of why Willy Adames would be linked with the Mets, but I'll be honest, I don't know if I like him over Pete Alonso on this team right now.
I really agree with you as well, especially if it's going to be the same money, which it feels like it would be the same money. If not Adames being slightly more expensive, probably for another extra year or two. He is a year younger than Pete. He is significantly more athletic than Pete. It'll be a massive defensive upgrade for this team. Willy Adames probably moves to third base and becomes one of the best defensive third basemen in baseball. He has the arm to handle it. He's been a great defensive player at shortstop. Last year, he took a step back at shortstop, but sometimes the 1 year OAA samples can get a little funky. Adames also, weirdly in his career, he's been worse playing up the middle than he has been playing going to his backhand. So if you're playing third base, you're always going to be moving to your glove side, basically to get ground balls. There's not going to be as much backhand. So that's a weird thing. Don't know if that means anything. Don't know if it doesn't. But I don't know if what you're losing as a hitter, which is conservatively like 100 points of OPS a year and probably 12 to 20 home runs, depending on the year, if you think Pete does bounce back to where he was in 2022. I don't know if that's worth these massive upgrades at third base defensively. I don't know how important defensive third base is. We ragged on Mark Vientos this year as one of the worst defensive third basemen in baseball, but that doesn't mean he can't get better at it. He just became an all-star hitter overnight. And also, I don't think that the defensive third base is like a linchpin of a baseball team. Like if you're going to have a bad defender, third base is a place to hide them. So I also weirdly agree with you that I don't exactly see the value proposition in going for Willy Adames instead of Pete Alonso.
And the thing that concerns me about Willy Adames, too, is that even when he has been better in Milwaukee, his offensive years have been very, very rocky, very much a roller coaster. Like this year, he had an OPS right around 800. Last year, he was a below average hitter. In 2023, he had a straight up bad season at the plate. He had a 94 OPS plus, 717 OPS, and on base percentage at 310. You go back to 2022. Granted, the OPS plus was 110, so he was 10% better than league average, 31 homers, 31 doubles. But he had a 298 on base percentage. Of course, he's improved upon that every year. Again, he walked a career high last year with 74 walks in 161 games. But there is something with Willy Adames that's missing. And this is the first time I feel like in the Steve Cohen era where there's a good player. It's the value, technically, money-wise, is worth it. And I think I'd rather just look elsewhere. If he ends up being a Met, I'd be fine. I'm not going to complain. He is a good baseball player. But to me, I definitely just value Pete on this team more. And maybe that's biased because he's been here and we love Pete.
I'm going to swing back now and play devil's advocate a little bit. I don't think I'm as afraid of Adames' bat long term. I think Adames' bat is clearly going to be worse than Pete's, especially from a power perspective. But it seemed like tracking into Willy Adames from 2022, 2023, 2024. He got by in 2022 as the same hitter he'd kind of been most of his career, which was a little bit more of a spray guy. He would get to power. He wasn't lifting the ball as much, and the plate discipline was a tiny bit all over the place. It seemed like there was a mindset for Willy Adames, I'm sure the Brewers pushed him to this, where there were a lot of meaningful changes made to his approach heading into 2023. He hit many more fly balls in the air than he ever had in his career, and he was being significantly more selective at the plate. He was chasing less often, and he was trying to swing more at the pitches at the heart of the zone. Something we talk about a lot with hitters. Like plate discipline is not something that's just not swinging at the pitches out of the zone. It's all swinging at the right pitches in the zone, avoiding that shadow zone, attacking the ones in the heart of the plate. It just seemed like it was a lot of push and pull and a lot of things that he was trying to do, but he couldn't exactly get right. Where 2024 coalesced. He took the changes that he made in 2023. He pulled the ball in the air more consistently. He made better contact on pitches in the zone. And then he was able to marry that with the play discipline advances he had, with the damage he was able to do previously in his career. So I think that Adames will settle in as a hitter who's very easily going to be a 15 to 25% better than league average guy. I don't know if he's getting 30 home runs. Last year also stole more bases than he ever had. He kind of waited a full year into the new rules to start stealing bases. He wanted to see if it was real. He let everybody else steal the bases 2023, and then he stole them 2024. Those two things together also make me think there could have been injury Willy Adames was dealing with in 2023 that we don't know about. Because again, a lot of the underlying stats from Adames in 23 were good, or at least better than they had been in his previous years, but he just wasn't able to access as much production in game. And he wasn't stealing bases when he is pretty fast. I know sprint speed is about in the 50th percentile, but Adames seems like a guy who might not run every single thing out just because, again, why pull a muscle on a ball hit to the second baseman? But it seems like to me that last year he did turn a page and become a more just a more impactful hitter. I just don't know if that money is worth the impact of a hitter he even is after all these things. It feels like you're paying for premium defense at a non-premium position. I don't really know how much I love that.
Yeah, I think the stuff for him is definitely sticky. Like I'm not concerned about him moving forward as a hitter. I think Pete will be a better one, but Adames is still going to be very good. I agree with you. Paying for the premium defense to move a guy. There's also a world where you move a guy out of shortstop, move him to third base, and he is not as comfortable. Like I think we also have to keep that very in mind. The Mets did try to do this with Carlos Correa, a couple of years ago, and they tried to bring him in. Obviously, it didn't end up working out. So close to Carlos Correa. Kind of glad we didn't do that. I have a feeling, I don't know, like Adames' market too is a little strange because a lot of teams need a shortstop. So are we going to be,
yes,
are we going to be basically overpricing him because teams are going to be trying to sign him as a shortstop where we would be putting him at third base. I don't want to get into a bidding war for a guy out of position, theoretically, too.
Yeah, but then you also look at third baseman, other corner infielders that are available. If like a reunion of Pete Alonso doesn't happen, I'll take Willy Adames over Alex Bregman.
Yeah, I think so too. Yep. And you see Bregman even said he'll play second base now, which, like, what is happening with this free agency?
Well, it's because the second base market is so scarce as well. I think all these players know that just having flexibility makes you more valuable to the team.
Yeah.
But you made a good point about teams needing a shortstop. I don't want to compete with the Braves, the Padres, the Dodgers, for all these teams that really badly need a shortstop. Even a team like the Yankees, they don't exactly need a shortstop, but they just need defense and athleticism. I'm sure there's a lot of teams that would really like Willy Adames and offer him money to do things more valuable than the Mets want him to do. I'm not really worried about him playing third base. He's just one of those ball players. Like,
I think he's going to be fine.
He has that vibe. And again, like, another cool thing about having a true proven shortstop on the roster that we've never been able to see, and I don't know if this would even work, it would be great for Francisco Lindor to not play the field 10 games a year.
Yes.
Just to keep those legs like a 3% fresher for the end of the season. Just a little bit. Take a little bit off his back. A guy like Willy Adames coming there, who I'm sure there'd be a lot of mutual respect and admiration, probably would get him off his feet for those 10 games a year. And then especially if we can kind of be a little more flexible with the DH this year, which I really hope we can be. There's a lot of positives and negatives, but at the end of the day, my gut reaction is just no.
Yeah, I'm kind of with you. And I think this goes against things that we said earlier in the offseason too, where I was like, if David Stearns wants the guy, we're just going to blindly trust that there's something there. And again, he's a good player, so clearly there is something there. I wish there was more reliable sources talking about this, because then I feel like I could really get invested in my opinion. But because we haven't had any of the big three, being like Ken Passan, Bob Nightingale, not going to say the sauce boss, it feels like it's almost not real. And like you said, the Mets are going to be linked to every major free agent. If you want to drive up your price, say the Mets are interested. If you want to have some rumors start, if you want to start the conversation, the Mets are interested. We know that the Mets do numbers, as Jeff Passan tweets about them, and they get 3 million impressions in a day, and the other tweets get under 1 million. So it's like, I'm very torn. I don't think I'd be upset if they got Willy Adames, but if they got Willie over Pete, I don't know. If it's a weird feeling for me to prioritize the first base bat right now in Pete Alonso over the good all-around player in Willy Adames. It feels backwards.
True, but the good all-around player is that what the Mets need more than a true power bat?
I don't think so.
I'll say this, truthfully, because we have to do this every single episode. If the Mets sign Juan Soto, that happens, I think a part of me might prefer Willy Adames to Pete Alonso.
Well, because we know that there's definitely a real possibility that Juan Soto will end up at DH towards the end of his career. And if you have Pete Alonso and Juan Soto, both those guys would end up as DH just towards the end of their careers.
And it's just the fact that if the Mets lose Pete Alonso and don't get Juan Soto, all of a sudden, where does the power come from?
Correct.
Like I love Mark Vientos, but I do think that, of course, there's going to be a really good chance for regression of Mark Vientos. Just when you look at his contact rates, his whiff rates, good chance that something changes. Maybe he has 40 home runs next year and he spits in my face again. But I think at that point, like, the Mets, just, if you want to win a World Series, you kind of need a 40 home run power bat. If you don't have that, I don't know how else you get that besides Pete Alonso or Juan Soto.
Do you think there's a chance that they think Willy Adames moving to third, put on a little more weight, could be a 40 home run guy? He had the 81st percentile barrel rate last year, 12%. That's like up there with the elite hitters in baseball. His exit velos, average exit velo wasn't great, but max exit velo was fine. He hit the ball in the air more. The bat speed's great. The launch angle and everything. I know launch angle we say is a little insane, but it does show that he was hitting the ball in the air a little bit more. Is there a way that he becomes a bigger power hitter? You move him to the corner?
I don't know. I mean, Miller Park's also a great place to hit home runs, much better than Citi Field.
He would have 35 home runs in Citi Field last year, and at Miller Park, he also
He's a good
would have
spray
had
hitter.
35.
Hits him everywhere. He does hit the home runs everywhere.
He would have actually had more home runs theoretically if he played all his games at Citi Field than what he did last season.
Again, much more than like something like launch angle, because launch angle is stupid, because if you hit a pop-up that's like 60-degree launch angle and you hit a ground ball, it's negative 10-degree launch angle. You're like, oh my God, 25-degree launch angle. This guy's perfect. But that's bullshit. It's the pulled fly balls. The fact that the last 2 years he's pulled significantly more fly balls than he has the rest of his career, that shows me power. And the fact that he's, again, been able to marry this new selectiveness with lowering his chase rate, getting that above league average, doing that while picking the right pitch to swing at, pulling the fly balls, that shows me power is legit. But can you project more power for a guy like this? Like, I don't know if that's a real thing. But then, like, again, 30 home runs, 20 steals, is that more valuable than 45 home runs and 5 steals? Because Pete will always steal 5 bases a year. He always will do that. It's just about probably a more philosophical thing with this Mets team, where David Stearns likes positional flexibility. He likes defense. He likes athleticism. Pete Alonso offers not one of those things I just said. And you know what? He never will, and that's okay.
It could also be a little bit of a play to make Pete a little scared too, of like, hey, we're gonna go get somebody else.
I am happy you said that because this seems like it may have been selectively leaked because the fact that it did go to Mike Rodriguez, who does, again, have a line to Dominican players. Yes. He does. I'm not disputing sources here. I'm just saying that since that was reported very contritely and there's been no more word on it for over 24 hours, 48 by the time you guys hear this, it seems like there's smoke, but there's not really a fire. But then, like Mayer came back, reported there has been interest shown. There's been mutual interest. I had some randoms in my DMs being like, it's real. I'm like, I just simply don't believe you. I'm really sorry. But I don't discount the Mets' interest in Willy Adames because he does check a lot of the boxes they would want. Again, it just comes back to a value proposition where you have to beat teams who want him to play shortstop, which makes him the most valuable. You're just buying Willy Adames' bat, I think, is a strange idea.
Okay, so let me put a little bow tie on this to wrap it up here. No Juan Soto right now on the New York Mets. We know that. Willy Adames, Pete Alonso, which one do you want? You don't know if you're getting Juan Soto or not.
I don't know.
You don't know. You know what you know right now, which is the Mets have a good chance to get Juan Soto, but they don't have him yet. Do you want Willy Adames? Do you want Pete Alonso? Because that's really what the conversation is. That's the choice right now.
It's the exact same money, exact same years.
Yeah, 7 for 160 to both of them.
Ooh. If you would have said like 5 for 140, which is the Matt Chapman contract. What was the Matt Chapman contract? It was 6 for 150. I might have said Pete, but the 7th year on Pete, 37-year-old Pete? No, fuck it. I'm still taking Pete. I'll still take Pete.
Still taking Pete?
I think without Soto, because we don't know if that's going to happen, I think he still adds more to this Mets lineup, which I'm a little bit more concerned about than what Adames would.
No, I'm weirdly with you. Like, it doesn't make any sense.
Should that be weird? Why is that weird?
Because, like, we know... I don't know, because it's a first baseman versus a third baseman. We know the value theoretically isn't the same, but you're right. In the context of this lineup, Pete is way more valuable. And truthfully, like you said at the beginning of the video, at the beginning of the episode, they had a garbage defense at third base last year they made to the NLCS. Mark Vientos could improve defensively at third base. Probably can't get much worse.
Definitely can't get worse. And again, we've seen, first of all, Vientos improve just as a baseball player tremendously in a very short period of time. So yes. I won't doubt his ability to improve. I always say this to you. Knowing an athlete's going to improve, the number one thing is seeing if they've already improved. Mark Vientos got a fuck ton better. I always think about like Marcus Semien, Austin Riley. Look what Alec Boehm just did. He still kind of sucks, but he's better than the worst player in the league. But like we see players do this, and it happens quickly sometimes. The third baseman is not, I would say, even the most difficult one. It seemed like he got a lot better last year, and all it was Francisco Lindor like telling him how to get in the ready position.
Dude, remember JD Davis when he was like a great fielder for the Giants for like a week?
And
they were like,
seconds.
Yeah, what's happening? He's like, I'm in a ready position. I'm ready to field the ball. Like, it might just be a reactions thing.
Mark Vientos, also funny enough, drafted as a shortstop.
That is true. People do forget that Mark Vientos was an up-the-middle guy. I think we're both taking Pete Alonso here. Again, not sure if the Willy Adames rumors have any truth to it or whatnot, but now that we can do whatever we want in the offseason, we figured this would be a little episode for you guys on the weekend. Anything else before we wrap it up here, James?
I think that's it. Just still Soto watch. There was the report that the Mets are taking a meeting with Juan Soto next week, so that's all we have there. And it's been really quiet on the rest of the stuff. Also, qualifying offer deadline to accept or decline, I believe, is next Friday or next Saturday, the 14th to the 15th, something like that.
Mets threw into Severino, right?
Yeah, Severino, Minaya, and Pete. Yeah, but this also means this gives us a little bit better of a chance to negotiate with them during this time.
Yes, and I do think Severino, probably out of all those guys, the most likely to take that qualifying offer.
Yeah, I also wouldn't discount a Minaya extension, but I think Severino is the most likely one. But we're going to talk to you guys plenty of times before then, so we'll keep an eye on it.
We'll talk to you on Monday. That's the next time we'll talk to you guys. The next time we'll see you. Thank you for watching on YouTube. Make sure you subscribe over at the Mets'd podcast. Crazy support over there recently. Really appreciate it. If you want to listen to us in the car, at work, whatever it is, you don't got the time to watch, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google, Overcast. Drop us a rating, drop us a review, download, and subscribe. You can follow James on Twitter at
James_Shiano.
I'm Giraffe Neck Mark with a C. Thank you guys for listening and watching, and we will catch you all on Monday, or if something happens on Sunday, and then we can talk to you then. But if not, see you Monday. Peace.
Peace out. See you guys next time. Let's go Mets.